One of my absolute favorite scholars is Brevard Childs. And there's a great deal of things that Brevard Childs and I would not agree on. But I think that he thinks about things, it seems, very clearly. He seems very forthcoming with his presuppositions, makes no attempt to obscure those things. And I think that he moves criticism in the right direction. Now, I'm going to read in just a second from Childs, but I do want to paraphrase Childs for just a second. If I'm like the guy that Herman Gunkel's writing about, just sitting around my hearth with my children, and they're listening and they're saying, Dad, what is this Herman Gunkel of which you speak? Or what is this Brevard Childs of which you would speak? I would summarize Brevard Childs by Brevard Childs goes, okay, sure, there's all kinds of things that we glean from source criticism. There's J and E and D and P and others. Form criticism helps us establish a Seitz and Laban. Literary analysis helps us see, or rhetorical analysis helps us see alliteration and chiasm and all that. But at the end of the day, don't we have a single book? Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, shouldn't we read this book in light of its whole? Because when we go and we dig up the manuscripts, what do we find? We find the whole book. Now, I know that sometimes you just find a piece of John here, or a piece of Mark, or a piece of Exodus, but it's not because that existed independently. It's because that's all that was in that particular spot or survived. But when you go to Qumran and you start pulling out the scrolls, guess what? They're all there in a book. And it's like, well, regardless of how many sources composed Isaiah, guess what? In its whole history of transmission, it's always been on this one scroll. It's always been together. And so we're compelled. We have to read it in light of the whole thing being here. We can't just endlessly search for individual pieces within it. So a couple quotes here. From Hill and Walton, they say in the canonical method, prehistory, so sources, tradition, forms, redactions, all that, is ignored in favor of understanding the meaning of the final form. That is, the final form of the text of the community of faith under whose aegis it took shape. This synchronic approach, I want you to circle, I'm even going to circle this. I know what it means, but I'm still going to circle it. The synchronic approach, that's an important term because diachronic analysis is an attempt to just break the text up, take it apart, look at the individual pieces. A synchronic analysis is an attempt to bring it all back together then. And this is where much of criticism has trended in recent years, is away from diachronic analysis and towards synchronic analysis.